Well, hello, hello, hello. We're going to get started in 5 minutes. We're going to get started in 5 minutes. In the meantime, make sure that you have something to write with and something to write on. Hello.
Hello.
I like your background. That's cool.
Oh, thanks. Some good old books.
Some good old books. Well, you're in good company here.
Excellent.
Jeffrey, where are you calling in from?
From just outside of Philadelphia.
Okay, wonderful. You have snow there already? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, the weather can be
I hope not.
But yeah, as far as I think, yeah, it still has been not quite that cold yet here, but who knows?
Knock on wood. We're gonna wait. We have about 20 folks signed up. We're gonna wait a few more minutes and then we're gonna get started. If you have any questions in the meantime, you're welcome to put them in the chat box.
Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure. And if you find any joy and any value in this, please share it with others. We have an introduction to NLP, standing for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, every Wednesday at this time. It's a reoccurring event on Eventbrite, and I like to keep it a little different. I like to keep coming from different angles and not do the same thing over and over again, just for my own sanity and also for the people that want to come back and maybe learn it from a different angle as well. Because sometimes we hear differently the second time that we come on. So I'm going to go high level overview of what NLP really is. Let me share my screen with you. If I wouldn't have that many windows open right now, bear with me. I have way too many windows open. I don't know if anyone can relate, but that's just how it is right now. So bear with me. Here we go. Okay, let me share my screen here with you. So we're here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the beautiful United States. NLP is it is the meta of all languages. So it is the language within language, or the language structure within language. And of course, when we study languages, we have, the grammar and the sentence structure, the syntaxes and all of that. I'm going to give you the strategies of NLP. And NLP goes way back into the mid-late 60s. And two gentlemen named John Grinder and I just forgot the other gentleman's name, Richard Bandler, were both scientists and mathematicians, and they looked at highly successful people of how they are communicating and how are they doing, how are they conducting business different, and why are they so successful with what they're doing. And it seems like other people are doing very similar things, but they're not as successful. So what sets them apart? So it took two mathematicians to actually take communication from successful people, take it apart, decipher it, and put it into laws and strategies. And that's really what neuro-linguistic programming stands for. It is NLP, the basics of NLP is communication skills. Sounds very simple, not that simple. If everyone could communicate, here in the United States, you might have heard it, we have a big thing going on next week on November 3rd. If we would all be great communicators, we actually would have debates that would be enjoyable watching. We would, I know, I just went there, sorry. We would actually have, find some common ground rather than creating a much deeper and wider divide. So it is up to us as educators, and here I am myself, and I'll share with you who I am and why you should even be listening to me, right? It takes us as educators to really dive deep and continue our learning and continue our growth. I like to say leaders are learners, and when you stop learning, you stop leading, and you start dying. So we are here to model it for our children. We're here to model it for our fellow community members, family members, friends, business partners, of what that really means to continue to grow within ourselves. So who am I? My name is Brigitta Hoeferle. Does not sound American whatsoever, and it isn't. I am originally from Germany. I moved to the United States in 2004 with my husband, Christian. And back then, our little toddler daughter, who was 18 months old, she just turned 18 a few weeks ago, moved to the United States to a small town in Tennessee from Midtown Munich. And we moved to a small town in Tennessee to build a Montessori school. So I'm by trade and by heart an educator. And I wanted to build, or I started building the Montessori school in Munich. And if you know anything about Germany, it's very regulated. And I simply couldn't, and Munich is very expensive too. And I simply couldn't find a school building that would be fit for school building and would be big enough so I could continue my school. So we said, well, this is probably a good time where we can go into a different country and continue our growth of our business there. And we did. Sounds very simple. Wasn't that simple at all. So fast forward, here we are. And as I'm growing my business, my school, creating, really good staff and helping parents to actually continue what their kids are learning in school, continue that at home. I found out about NLP. I found about neuro-linguistic programming. And I said, look, children are innocent by nature. It's the adults around them that mess them up. Let's be honest, right? It's the quality of the teachers. It's the quality of the communication of the parents, of the thought leaders, of the religious leaders, of community members, leaders overall. How can I teach them so we can have a better quality in our kids that are growing up and being the next world citizens? And that's when I found out about NLP. So here I am. I purchased the NLP Center of Atlanta several years ago, and the NLP Center has been around since 1986. So it's been around for quite some time, and it falls in direct lineage to Richard Bandler and John Grinder, the founders of NLP and the brains behind the genius, right? So neuro-linguistic programming, let's decipher it really quick. NLP studies the patterns or the programming that is created between our brain, that's our operating system, that is the neuro part of it, the language, the linguistic, that is coming outward or even inward as we are talking to ourselves. Because I don't know about you, but I know I'm talking to myself, and I'm pretty sure that is true for everyone else as well. And then also how it shows up in our physiology, how it shows up in our behavior, and that's what the programming stands for. So neuro, brain, linguistic, communication inward and outward, and programming is the behavior that we're left with, either within our own behavior or the behavior that we have an impact on someone else that we are talking to, which I like to call the other. So talking to someone else. There are several laws in NLP, and if you'd like to have this spreadsheet, just send me a quick email to info@NLP Atlanta. I'd love to send you the checklist of our laws that I'm going to go through here really in the next few minutes. So NLP is all about increasing choice and flexibility. And before we got the recording started today, I talked about the law of requisite variety, and I'm going to talk about it later. I'm going to come back to it. So let's look at the communications model. So at the very top, at the top right, you see the external event. I like to, see it as a little visual of drama that's going on outside. It could be anything that you're witnessing, anything that you're seeing, hearing, or feeling, because you're taking it in through your senses. So anything that you're watching on TV, anything that's happening at home, anything that's happening in business, in any given moment, you have about 2 million bits of information flying at you that your brain is there to process. And you're taking it in through your senses, which is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or olfactory, or gustatory. So your sense of seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, or tasting. Now, if there are 2 million bits of information flying at us at every given moment, I probably would argue that there's even more information flying at us now, specifically, when you have your computer up, you have your laptop up, you have the phone, you have the TV running, you have the radio running, you have Spotify on, you have everything that's going on around you. There's a lot of things going on. There's no way that your brain can take in all of that information at one time. So to not get you in complete and utter overwhelm, your brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes information. And we all delete, distort, and generalize information differently. It's all the same event coming at us, but we delete, distort it, and generalize it so we can at least make sense of it and not fall into complete overwhelm. It is as unique as we delete, distort, and generalize as our thumbprint is, as our fingerprint is. Now that deletion or distortion or generalization, or all three of them, of this one specific event brings us to our internal presentation, takes us to our mindset, and comes out in a physiology, in a body language that will then be interpreted as our behavior. Okay, so let's take an example. Imagine you are witnessing a car accident, right? You are witnessing the car accident from the second floor. You're seeing it from the window out onto the street, and there are two cars colliding, and the police comes around and asks the people that are in each car, and the witnesses, asks you and the people, the pedestrians that are around that have witnessed what happened. Every person is witnessed the exact same event, the exact same thing happening, but they all saw it from different angles, from different points of view. Some saw it from the second floor, some saw it from within the car, some saw it walking around. And they had to delete and distort and generalize to make sense of what was going on. So as the police officer is asking them for what happened, each person is going to have their own story. They're going to have their own representation of what truly happened. They all saw the same thing, and no one is right or wrong. It's just a different angle, a different point of view. And just by knowing that, and by really internalizing that's how people view the world, we can start to relate to others easier. Often right now, as I'm working with our legacy clients, I hear often, they're saying that, and that is wrong. Well, that is wrong according to your standards, according to your values, according to your beliefs, according to your experiences, according to your memories, according to your culture, according to your upbringing. There are many, many, many made-up factors, made-up programs that play part of that, right? Now, we're not talking about facts that are not really facts. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about true facts, true things that are really going on, but we all see them from a different point of view, okay? So when we have that in our practitioner course, when we go through our practitioner course, we go through many, many exercises, and one of them is the map is not the territory. When we truly realize that the map is not the territory, that there are different representations, then we can have a better understanding of how other people might see it, might see the world, or might see the map, and have a better appreciation, and therefore become more flexible in our communication with them. So here they are. Let's go through the laws really quick. I already said it. The map is not the territory. We all delete, distort, and generalize very uniquely, as unique as our fingerprint, which brings us to respect. We are able to, when we are internalizing that, are able to respect the other person's model of the world, how the other person sees the model of the world, or sees the world through their lenses, through their deletions, through their distortions, through their generalizations. Now, I like to use the word relate rather than understand, because often we cannot understand because we have never walked in their shoes, because we have never been in a similar situation as they have been. Like, I don't come from Itang's culture. I come from the German culture. So I see it from my culture, through my cultural lenses. I might see something differently, right? Knowing that there's a course correct, that if I do something that's not working, I actually have enough choice and flexibility to do it a different way. You might have heard the Albert Einstein quote that if you try to do the same thing over and over again and you're expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. So know that you always, at any given moment, have the opportunity to do a course correct, that you have choice and flexibility in what you're doing. And then there's the law of requisite variety, which is a mouthful for a German to say altogether. But the law says that the person with the most flexibility controls the system. So the person that has the most flexibility in the way that they contribute to an event, that the way that they react to an event, the way that they communicate with an event, the way that they show their physiology in any event, will allow them to have the best, will allow them to, I'm gonna, for lack of a better term, win, okay? So it's not about winning here. It's not about, you know, you lose, winning. That's not what this is about, but it's about the more flexible you're. Let me give you this example. This is a good example. Imagine bamboo. Imagine how long it takes for bamboo, once it's planted, to actually shoot out. It takes years, right? But once it stands tall, it is also rooted with its roots in the soil. It is rooted strong where it stands. And yet it is very flexible to sway in the wind, to sway with the weather. And that's how the law of requisite variety actually is. When we have enough choice in our communication, we're able to communicate to different people in different ways. That does not mean, and I'm going to be very deliberate in what I'm about to say, that does not mean that you're inauthentic in your communication. That's not what that means. It means that you have enough choice to be able to communicate to different people according to their style of communication, according to their word catalog of communication. There are levels of word catalogs that you can tap into. There's the value catalog, word catalog. There's a representational word catalog. There's the phonetic layers of word catalog of communication. There's the physical layer of communication. There are actually 6 layers, and within those 6 layers, just on the word catalogs, it goes 8 layers deep. So knowing that there is, if you're not tapping into those layers, then you have a lack of a flexibility. So having more flexibility in your communication, may be verbal or nonverbal, is really up to you if you want to learn that or not learn that. Because what happens if you don't have it, if you don't have that flexibility, you're probably, when you're, say, going to a job interview, like you Jeffrey, we just talked about that. If you go to a job interview and you don't have enough flexibility to talk to the person that's interviewing you, you might or might not get to that next level. So being able to listen for those layers, and then being able to speak it back to them so it actually lands with them, and building rapport with them quickly, that's really the result that you want to achieve with the law of requisite variety, right? Another law in NLP is that your thoughts and your memories have structure. As I said earlier, Richard Bandler and John Grinder are mathematicians. So they brought the structure, they brought the strategy out of our thoughts and our memories, and how it has an impact in our communication, in the way that we conduct ourselves and have communications with others. Which brings us to that your results are only as good as your mindset. So if you don't like what you're getting, you might want to go back to your mindset. And I want to bring a success pattern to you. I don't have this on these slides, but I'm going to make me a note that I don't forget success patterns. So you want to make sure that you are taking inventory of your mindset if you want to have a different result. And that goes hand in hand with what I said earlier, that at any given moment, you can do a course correct. You have that choice, but you got to be aware of it. Most people are not even aware that they have that, right? Another law of NLP is people are not their behavior. So you can appreciate the person for who they are, but not necessarily appreciate their behavior, knowing with one of the strategies that you learn in the practitioner course, that is pacing and leading. So when you start to be able to pace someone and build rapport with that person, as you have enough flexibility, you can then eventually lead them to see your side of the map, of the map or of the territory, right? NLP is all about expert modeling, because if one person can do it, anyone can. It's all about looking out for who is doing something really, really well that I can model. and you want to be very careful, specifically during these times of, social media, that you do really good research. Who is the person, the expert that you are modeling? You want to do some really good due diligence and get some modeling from the right people, and the people with integrity, and the people in the right lineage. Another law of NLP is change one modality, change them all. So imagine a modality is your physiology. A modality is something that you hear or see or even smell or taste. So for instance, I worked many years ago, I worked with a client, and she came to me, and her shoulders were down, her face was facing downwards. She was talking very quietly. She was very timid, and she literally could not see the next day. She was very tuned in to her emotions, almost depressed, and she was not able to see anything because her entire physiology was down, and her mindset was down as well, not physically, but just it was grim pessimism almost. So when she came to me, I asked her to put her shoulders back and to look up for other opportunities that are out there. So I had her change one modality. I just had her to shift her physiology. And as she was looking up, she also shifted from being in tune with her feelings, which live further down, to looking up where there's more of imagination, looking upwards. So just by doing that, I shifted her physiology, and her mindset started shifting. So that's what this means: change one modality, change them all. And trust me, I am like scratching the surface here. I'm going 500 miles an hour. I hope that you can follow, taking some really good notes, but we go deep into that in the practitioner course if you ever choose to do that. Knowing that you already have the resources that you need to do the very best that you can at any given moment. There's a great book, not NLP related, but somewhat it is, by a gentleman named Dan Miguel Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, and it's called The 4 Agreements. And one of the 4 agreements is always do your best. And when you know that you can, in any given moment, give your best with the resources that you have, and then you're aiming for something better, knowing that you can learn and continue to learn to aim for that next well-formed outcome. Well-formed outcome is another strategy that we teach. But knowing that in any given moment, you can give your very, very best with the resources that you have. There are no unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. And states can be replaced by mindset. So if someone's not in the right mindset, they're still a resourceful person. They just got to shift maybe one modality and shift their physiology, or shift their mind, or shift something that they're telling themselves or that they're thinking. One cannot not communicate. That means communication is not just the words. Actually, words, if we go by Albert Morabian, who puts communication that is in a high emotional state, puts communication in 3 categories: nonverbal, or body language, tonality, and words. Words are only 7% when we decipher emotional communication. Body language is 55%, and tonality is 38%. So even if you're not talking at all, you can still communicate just by your facial features, or your body will talk as well. And you probably heard this. Sometimes me personally, I need to tell my face separately to shut up. Just being real here. The meaning of your communication is the response that you're getting. That means if someone is not responding the way to you that you desire them to respond to, that has nothing to do with them. That has everything to do with you as the sender. So if you don't like how they're responding to you, you as the sender have probably done something that didn't land with them. So again, more choice and flexibility in your communication is going to get you that response that you truly want. Underlying every behavior is a positive intention. We all come from a place of safety in our communication and from a positive intention. It might not serve us anymore, but at some point in our life, it was a positive intention and it served for safety. So looking at where does that come from, and how can you change it, or if there is a need to change it, or take inventory of it and see if you can do more of that if it is supporting you. If it's not supporting you, definitely want to change it. But knowing that in our communication, underlying every behavior is a positive intention. That goes back to what I said earlier. Everyone is making the best choices with the resources available to them. So you already have the resources that you need to do the very best at any given moment, and knowing what your well-formed outcome is in the future, what you're aiming for, that you can continue to learn. And that goes with the well-formed outcome. Know what you're aiming for. Know what your outcome is. Be specific, and spell it out specifically in a positive, not in a negative. Often my clients come to me and say, I don't want to, or I don't want to have, or I don't want to do X, Y, Z. And I say, okay, great. Let's do a little T-chart of what you don't want. And let's look on the other side of that T-chart. What is it that you do want? And let's get really specific on what is it that you do want, so you can actually start aiming for it. You can start taking the appropriate tangible steps towards that outcome. There's no failure. There's only feedback. When I moved to the United States in 2004 with a business plan for a Montessori school in my back pocket, my father-in-law said, "What's your plan B?" I said, "I don't have a plan B." He says, "But what if you're going to fail? What if that school is not going to be what you want it to be?" I said, "It's not going to fail. There will be feedback. There will be a lot of learning along the way, but I'm not going to fail." There was no room for failure. There was a lot of room for feedback, a lot of room for feedback. But that, I didn't allow it to stop me. I allowed it for me to grow, to continue to learn, to tap into resources that I didn't even know that were there yet. But I always went by the mindset of, yes, it's a great feedback, which is a great learning opportunity, but it's never a failure. I've seen people drowning puddles, not actually, but more literally, because they fell with their head down into the puddle and stayed there, right? Get back up, wipe yourself off, dust yourself off, and keep going, and see where you can do a course correct. NLP is all about moving away from something, often pain or a non-supportive situation, and moving towards pleasure or something that's supporting them. It's not moving towards first and then moving away from. The first step is always moving away from something that is painful. Okay, if it's not painful enough, the move is not quick enough. So if someone is not changing their behavior, they're probably not experiencing something that is painful enough yet. So it's moving away from, moving towards too. Really quick, I'm going to go through the eye accessing cues that we spend like almost a half a day on in our practitioner course. When I said earlier that when I worked with my client who was very in touch with her feelings, the K on the bottom here on this chart is kinesthetic. So with your eye accessing patterns, you are tapping into with your eyes to your emotions, to your feelings. That's where the kinesthetic processing happens, right? The auditory happens more towards your ears. When your eyes go towards your ears, you either construct or you remember. So you're either making something up or you're remembering it because you've actually heard it before somewhere. So if someone is composing a piece of music, their eye movements are more over here. And these are eye movements that go really, really quick. Those are like nanoseconds, and they're called minimal cues as well. And then the visual is up here. So when we're visualizing something, we look up here, we're either constructing it or we're remembering it. My teacher in German public school, when she asked me something and she would, call on my name and I would go, and I would look up there, and I am a very visual person. She always yelled at me and she says, "Brigitta, it's not up there. The answer is not on the ceiling." And then the first time I took an NLP program and I thought, well, actually, it is, right? The answer for me is up there. So we we're either more visual, we're either more auditory, or we're either more kinesthetic, or some of us are also auditory digital, which we're more in the processing internally of our internal thoughts and minds and processing it internally. I'm not going to go through all from outcomes today, but I do want to go through the success patterns. And the success, actually, let me stop sharing my screen real quick, and I'll put it here on the whiteboard. I call it the success pattern, but it can go both ways. So let me write it here on here. It's thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings lead to actions. Oh, and then, oops, actions lead to results. So thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. Imagine you're waking up in the morning and it's raining outside, and you feel like you have this thought of, today's going to be a really sucky day. I don't want to get out of bed. It's cold, it's rainy. Today's just going to be a horrible day. So you have this kind of mind chatter with yourself. Well, that feeling turns into a, oh, I already feel, you know, depressed, or I don't know, I don't want to do anything. I might as well just stay in bed. So then you go into an action. Well, the action might take you to a non-action of just staying in bed, or dragging your feet around the house, or not wanting to go outside, not wanting to do anything. And therefore your results are not going to be satisfactory. You might have a lack of results, you might have negative results, of definitely probably not the results that you wanted to have that day. Now, that can be the pattern of the downward spiral, right? It just starts with a negative thought, it just goes downhill from there. Or you can choose, let's take the same morning. It's raining outside. You can say, you know what? It is raining outside, and I am going to take this day to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to go and sit at my laptop, and I'm going to write that essay that I've been writing, that I've been wanting to write all along, and I'm going to use this day, and I'm going to crush it. So that thought leads to a feeling of, yeah, I'm going to accomplish this today. So it's already a done deal. And then that feeling actually takes you into an action step of maybe sitting at the laptop and just writing away on that essay, doing your research, finding resources of what can contribute to this essay. And the result of that is that you have your finished essay at the end of the day, or by lunch, or whenever you want to have that result. So that would be the success pattern that will take us upward, right? At any given moment, and we have those thoughts not just once in the morning, we have those thoughts ongoing throughout the day and even during the night. In any given moment, we have a choice. We have a choice. Do we want to catch our thought, and is it supporting us, and will it take us either downward or upward? We choose that. But before we can make that choice, before we actually have that thought, we have to have that awareness to catch our thoughts. Because somehow, as humans, we're programmed to tap into negativity and non-supportive thoughts easier than supportive and positive thoughts. And that takes practice. That takes a real programming of oneself, if we so choose to really get us into that positive thoughts. Some people might call them affirmations, even, that bring out a negative. If you have a negative thought, you replace it with an affirmation. At no time can you just suppress a thought or suppress a feeling. Suppressing something will never work. It's like the dandelion that suddenly comes up in the middle of the highway, right? We've all seen it. It will come out. It'll find its way somewhere. So suppressing is not the way, but replacing it. And often it's not replacing the entire mindset or the entire thought. It maybe is something within that thought, a word, or how you start to feel about it, that you can change. So being aware of that awareness is that first step. So I wanted to end this at the half hour. I went 4 minutes over, and I want to make sure that I answer any questions. I went like 500 miles an hour today. Thank you for being on. Now let me open up for any questions. Any questions, you guys? Come off mute or put it in the chat box, either way. I'm flexible.
I had a, yeah, and sorry, I dropped out briefly. Uh, can you say a little bit more about course correction?
Yes, yes. So say you're working on something. Say you're writing that essay, right? And you already started writing that essay, and you find, actually, I don't have the resources that I need for this essay, or I really don't like the topic, or something within that essay says, I got to do something different. Knowing that you can stop in any given moment and change, and that you have a choice. You might have some parameters when writing an essay, say for school or for your work. You might have some parameters, but you still have flexibility within those parameters. In any given moment, say you have a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you think, this is my business, it's this, it says this in my mission statement, I have the entire business plan built out, it's got to be that way. And along the way, you find something in your business plan is just not, it doesn't make sense anymore, or it's not in alignment with your code of honor, or it's not in alignment with your target market, or you're finding something along the way that you're going, I need to tweak that. Know that you can tweak it, that just because you wrote it down somewhere, or you were thinking it, or you were starting to go down that route, that you can still, there's a crossroad, that there's a choice that you can continue to do it the same way as you have done it, knowing probably that you might not get to the results that you really want, or you can start going the other direction that might be a little bit more work, but down the road, it makes more sense because you're actually getting to the result that you want. Too many people are doing the same thing over and over again, and trying to get, they're doing the same thing over and over again, but they're trying to get over here, right? But just because they said, or they thought, or they're feeling that they're going to do it, and they said they set it out to go that route, but they really want to go here. Does that make sense, Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when we can internalize that we have a choice of how, I'll give you another great example. I had a group coaching call with a family-owned business on Monday evening, and there's some divide in the family, just, you know, through politics and through how family business is being conducted. And at the very beginning, I said, you guys can, you know, continue, this side over here can continue to think the way that you have thought the entire time, and you guys over here can continue to think and do the same thing as you have done the entire time. Or you can start, there's a choice, you can start to find a common ground, and you guys come over here a little bit. It's called, you know, finding an agreement, and finding some what's the term I'm looking for, common ground, and it'll come to me. You guys come 2 steps closer in, and you guys come 2 steps closer in, and start to find some common ground. Rather than focusing on what separates you, try to focus what brings you together. Is there something that you all share? And there was a lot of things that they shared together. So there's that choice. There's a course correction of, they're doing it their way, they're doing it their way, but then also being open to, well, rather us wanting to do it like we've always done it, what if we look at how can we do things a little bit different and find some common ground, find some similarities? Everyone nowadays just wants to look at how they're not similar, how they're different, rather than looking at what are some of the similarities. And that's a choice, right? And that starts with a mindset. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. I was thinking. So, have you ever, just more a quick question? I don't want to hog all the questions. Have you ever worked like mediating political disputes, or where I mean, it's hard to take divorce current events entirely from this. You know, to try, because like what you were saying about, you know, there being a lot of common ground. it seems to me that, you know, there's a whole lot of overlooked common ground that's out there that is maybe less, I don't know, is less visible or less attractive than it seems like often, you know, invented differences.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And well, as close as I got to it was probably this group call that I had on Monday evening with this company where, you know, they're being divided by politics right now. And
Very interesting.
yeah, and I got almost everyone to really appreciate the other in some. I actually had everyone say some appreciation about the other. And then one person at the very end fell off against it. No, but you're wrong. Where I started out with, we're going to start the session and we're going to maintain in this session with I am statements, not pointing fingers, but bringing it inward, right? It worked with everyone but one. And you know, that's another law that I didn't even cover here, because there's so many other laws in NLP, and that is there must be an ecological consideration. So you gotta choose your battles. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? Is it worth your effort? Is it worth your energy to continue to have a relationship? Maybe business, maybe romantic, maybe platonic, maybe whatever. Is it worth your time, energy, and money to continue that relationship? And sometimes that's a tough question, right? Itang, I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you have as well.
Yes, actually, I just before my auntie just learned the NLP program like back home in Taiwan, and I found the activity here. I think is interesting, and I would like to learn more. And I think it's really like give a many positive thinking for me,
Yes.
especially when I doing the master here. So I'm very happy to join today's.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
In our one of our last webinars that we did, we had a lady from Algeria who's studying, I think she's studying in Scotland, which is interesting. So we're getting people from all around the globe. And she's taking our practitioner course. And the beautiful thing is our practitioner course is live online. So we have, you know, we've always done them live in person here in Atlanta, and with COVID, we're now going live online, and we've got great feedback from our people. And on top of that, on our YouTube channel, you're welcome to look into our NLP Atlanta YouTube channel. There's a lot of courses that are free that are there for you. I've done them with either myself or John Kurth. John Kurth is one of our faculty members. He actually lived in Taiwan for several years. Great gentleman. He's an NLP grandmaster like myself. And yeah, I hope that you find some information there as well. One of my favorite courses that we have done this year is the neurological levels. And if you just Google, you know, on YouTube or search on YouTube, NLP Atlanta, all of our courses are right there and they're free for you. So, and while you're there, subscribe to our channel. So if there are no other questions, we're gonna call it off for today. Thank you for being on. Spread the word, spread the love. Thank you guys. Stay in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you.